Due to the extremely graphic sexual nature of this podcast, it may not be suitable for young children, or sensitive souls, or to be listened to with your mother.
Especially not with your mother.
I've always wanted to say that.
You met Dr. Neff?
Oh, I think I met everyone in the clinic, all the sex doctors.
Psychologists, Lieutenant, sex therapists.
Welcome to episode 48 of the Columbo podcast, where we can't work out if we are therapists or doctors.
We're not sex anything, I don't think.
Speak for yourself, Ian. I consider myself
An expert.
A keen amateur.
Very well read, anyway.
I won't even go that far. I've looked at a lot of pictures. Anyway, good evening, Ian. How are you?
I am very well today. How are you, Gerry?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this podcast. Probably more than the episode itself.
Yeah, the episode was unusual.
I think it's going to be more fun to discuss than watch.
Perhaps. Hopefully all the listeners have watched it at least once and have it burned in their memory.
Yeah. This may be an episode that splits opinions. We've been wrong recently over the last few episodes where we've actually rated them higher than a lot of people, a lot of the listeners have.
It's true, and part of the problem is that some folk love the ones that other folk hate,
Mm-hmm.
but I have seen at least one person include this episode in their list of their top 10 ABCs. That's the revival episodes on the ColumboPodcast.com comments.
Yeah, it has a lot going for it, I have to say. It's a riskier episode.
It's a very stylised episode. It's almost borrowed, it feels to me.
You've mentioned before your feelings of how 80s and how stylised the new run is. But this is a very 80s episode with a very distinctive score.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much convinced at one point that David Duchovny was about to start narrating.
Well, we start.
Yeah, I'm hoping nobody got the David Duchovny reference.
Everyone did. No one will admit to it.
How about a summary?
That's the traditional way.
Well, we're nothing if not traditional when it comes
wait
to...
a second. No, yeah, but wait a second.
Have you ever had a fantasy of doing the summary?
I was going to say, I've got, how about I be the choir boy doing the... No, let's not. I'm more of a missionary man. I'm not really. We'll cut that out. No, we'll leave our fantasy aside, Ian. I think we'll just do this the traditional, old-fashioned way.
Straight up and down.
Carry on.
Popular sex therapist Dr. Joan Allenby is shocked to discover her lover David Kincaid in bed with her assistant when she unexpectedly returns to their clinic after a flight is cancelled. Unnoticed, she leaves to plan her revenge and returns from a trip to Chicago with murder in mind. Under the pretense of fulfilling a sexual fantasy, she adopts an alter ego, Lisa, luring David to the clinic to reveal she knows of his infidelity and to shoot him dead. With an apparent alibi in place, Joan tries to avoid being identified as Lisa, but a series of infatuated men provide a trail of clues that lead Columbo back to Allenby's clinic. Can the lieutenant pin his suspect down when it seems she may never have existed at all?
Thanks for that saucy little number, Ian. Although, you didn't have to read it whilst wearing a black fedora.
It's the fashion nowadays.
Yeah, maybe around your way it is. We start off on a freeway. But although I will say, I have to be honest, I was a little annoyed whilst watching the episode and thinking that Columbo is being utterly childish. You know, any mention of sex and he's grinning and he's looking all coy and shy. But we started the podcast in exactly the same way. A couple of cheesy grins and nonsense jokes. Now let's be serious about this. Let's be grown up and adult about this. It's sex. We've all got fantasies. We've all read the books and we all want to be...
We're not alone.
Prostitutes. Yes, we'll treat this with the gravitas that deserves.
Yes, people take their Columbo very seriously, and I think that we owe it to them to deliver a podcast that is short on innuendo and long...
Yes. Listen, there's no innuendo. No, I don't want any jokes. No innuendo.
No double entendre.
Nothing. No double anything. Okay. Let's just do this properly.
We'll keep it pointing in the right direction.
Yes. Okay. We start off with an aerial shot of a freeway, so there's a slightly higher production values. There's a helicopter here.
Yeah.
This opening, and
It's like a newscopter type thing, and we hear at the start sort of someone tuning their radio.
yeah, I think this very brief scene is to highlight that all of LA listen and tune in to Dr. Joan Allenby's sex therapy radio show.
Yes,
Yeah, so she's a big star, well known,
she is, and she's right in saying she has a large audience for her work.
very large, and growing. We then very quickly go to the radio station where we see that she's broadcasting.
Yeah,
And it's within the Allenby Clinic itself. Now, I was a little bit unsure about the whole sort of geography of this episode.
myself as well. I think I said to you earlier today, it's tricky to work out what's going on where, and a lot of it isn't explained until much later.
Yeah. So I think what we have is the Allenby Clinic is situated within an office block. They have a floor, I think. And within that, they have the radio station.
Yeah.
And they also have the clinic with a bedroom.
Yeah, and meeting rooms and offices.
Yeah. So she continues with her theory on the radio that, in fact, most women fantasise about being hookers.
So she says.
Apparently, she's an expert.
It's not one that I've come across.
A man arrives in the producer's room.
Yeah, he starts gesturing through the window and she reciprocates.
He, we learn, is a David Kincaid, her manager and boyfriend.
Well, I'm not sure if he's the manager so much as her partner in business, she
Yeah.
says at one point.
Sure.
I think partners in life and in business.
He pops through to her studio and they kiss as a female producer, who is a Cindy. She looks on.
Yeah.
And we find out that Allenby, she has to go to Chicago that night, and Kincaid is going to stay in Los Angeles to have a meeting about attempting to get her own TV show.
Yeah, she is very disappointed. She was expecting him to travel with her.
They appear very much enamoured with each other. Quite, they're like teenagers, aren't they? Kissing and telling each
Yeah,
other.
they're very openly affectionate.
We then move through to an office within the building.
The suite, whatever we're going to call it, yeah.
As she speaks with Kincaid, a Dr. Ward enters to give her a report.
He's not the most cheerful fellow.
No, he doesn't appear to be very happy with what he considers to be a sort of a cheap gimmick, a commercialisation of using sex to get ratings.
Commercialisation is exactly the word that I was going to go for. I think he's unhappy with the approach they're taking to their work.
Nonetheless, Allenby doesn't seem too concerned. Cindy, the producer and seems to be sort of PA type
Yeah.
person.
Assistant maybe, yeah.
Yeah. She sees Allenby off on her trip in a very efficient manner. So she's organising the trip with the schedule, etc.
Yeah.
And outside we see Allenby and Kincaid kiss again. Again, very affectionate, quite cloying actually, I thought. I'll quickly mention Stephen Macht, who played Dr. David Kincaid. He was born in 1942. He has been in The Monster Squad, Suits, 164 episodes of General Hospital, Murder, She Wrote, Cagney and Lacey, and he nearly got the role, he auditioned, and was nearly given the role of Jean-Luc Picard on The Next Generation.
I think that's very interesting. I don't think he would have been as good as Patrick Stewart.
Too much hair?
Just all wrong.
Why? No, in fact, I don't want to know.
Okay.
So we go to the airport, and this is again a very brief scene. We find out that her flight has been delayed or cancelled, so...
Yeah, we're told that the airport is socked in. I wasn't sure what that meant.
I'm not sure either. But we do find out that one of the airport workers, perhaps a stewardess, she's a big fan. She's read Allenby's book, The Courtesan Complex, or whatever it's called.
She recognised her.
Yeah, that's nonsense about
Fantasies and so on.
everyone wants to be a hooker and all that type of
You
stuff.
mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not that progressive, is it?
You don't seem
It's a bit lazy.
like you believe it, no.
Listen, I've heard of many dubious and dodgy fantasies, but I wouldn't tar everyone with the same brush. Every woman wants. Some do. Some are.
I'm sure.
Some don't want to be. Who are? Most people shouldn't be, probably.
That's a value judgment.
Of course it is.
Anyway, she heads back to the clinic at this point.
Yes, where she meets the night receptionist porter chap called Ozzy.
Yeah.
They seem to know each other.
Yeah, I had a problem. At this point, I've got in my notes, the people in this episode aren't speaking like normal people.
Why?
I don't know, the dialogue seems weird to me, and Columbo's usually much better at this.
So you think this can happen? They're speaking like a book.
Yeah,
No,
it's too
written
much
word.
exposition.
Yeah.
Normally the shows are pretty good at not having that problem, but it was very obvious to me in the early part of this episode that these folk were not naturally flowing speakers.
Okay, well, we can get to the writer later.
Okay.
So she heads up to the clinic,
Yes.
and she is devastated to discover Kincaid in the middle of an affair with Cindy, and
Literally in the middle.
literally, well, don't know if it's in the middle, don't know how long they've been going or how long he intends to go for.
Well, they're talking about dessert, so I'm guessing they're
Well, that's the
coming
end,
to
isn't
the
it?
end. Yeah.
Okay.
The end of an
Yeah.
affair.
Yes, and
I'm thinking back to Murder Under Glass when they talk about they're about to begin an affair.
fair, yes, about to. And she is unfortunately described and hears herself being described as a rice pudding when it comes to lovers.
Yes, she is the bland, plain, basic, I assume.
Everyone likes a rice pudding.
Yeah, but it's not exotic or
It's not,
exciting.
but it's creamy and tasty.
We fast forward.
We do. She does not make herself known.
No, she, as I mentioned in the summary, she leaves unnoticed to plan her plans.
Yes. And we see her back at the airport, this time returning from her Chicago trip.
Yeah, and David meets her in the most cringeworthy way.
How is that?
She says, "David?" And he says, "Yo."
Yes, he also says that in the car as well. Was that at the same time?
It might be around about that same time, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the next scene, or in the car on the way
Does he do
home.
it again, yeah.
It does say yo, I remember, because I had the subtitles on as well. And it's even worse when you have to read a man in his 50s, 40s say yo. No one should be saying yo.
It's not a word.
No. Unless you're on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And even then, you shouldn't be saying it.
We can do it ironically.
You could do. I don't think Kincaid was being ironic.
No, that was my problem with it.
Yeah.
We do learn here that they've been together for 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And also he has successfully engineered this TV deal.
So he says.
She is acting as if obviously nothing has happened.
Yep, she's playing it cool for now. And she talks about how they have plans that evening.
They're meant to be going to a fundraising musical event concert, but she suggests something different.
David,
Yo,
how long have we been together?
business or pleasure?
Take your pick.
3 years.
You ever get tired of me?
Come on. Does the sky get tired of the sun?
Still, I think it's time we took some of my professional advice.
Advise me, doctor.
Fun and games.
What flavor?
Sultan and slave girl. Headmistress and choir boy. Whatever.
That's some whatever.
We've got the reception at the music center tonight. Is that really what you want to do?
What do I really want to do?
There's a cocktail lounge called Buckets. Meet me there at 9. Boy, have I got plans for you.
I couldn't help but think that Buckets is a... Would you name your cocktail, your sophisticated cocktail bar, Buckets?
Maybe the surname, maybe it's bouquets.
Yeah, could be, but it makes me laugh every time I
Yeah.
hear it. Buckets. We're going to Buckets. So, what's happening is that she is meant to be going to, or they're both meant to be going to this musical recital. She's asked him to meet her at the Buckets.
Instead.
The next scene, we see her dressing for the evening.
This is like something out of a soap opera.
Yeah, and there's that sax music again. Yeah, the score's cheesy, isn't it?
I think David Duchovny comes back in at
He
this
does.
point.
Have you seen The Lost Boys?
No.
There's a very famous scene where there's an oiled up greaseball muscle man with long hair, topless, playing the saxophone. Anyone, if
would
anyone,
fit.
yeah, just search for Lost Boys sax player and you'll see what I mean. Anyway, so yeah, she changes into a wig, a black dress, and then she selects one from a number of handguns. Now, did I miss something? Was this ever explained?
It doesn't. No, it doesn't fit with the explanation.
No, the explanation is that she bought it that day.
And looked nervous doing it. No, she bought it in Chicago and looked nervous doing it.
Yeah, okay, so recently, but she, again, am I misremembering this? She opened a drawer, there was a number of them.
It looked to me that they were.
We'll talk more, well, in fact, let's talk about it just now. At the end, when we're discussing how she bought the gun, apparently the sales assistant says that the address that she'd given was a fake.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know too much about guns and gun buying in America, but even in the more relaxed states when it comes to gun ownership, I don't think you can walk in and not provide any ID and just hand over cash and get a gun. They do some sort. Most of them, I think, it takes a number of weeks, perhaps months.
I think you're wrong. I think that people want that to be the case, but in some places you can just go in and buy them.
Really?
Yeah.
Without any proof of who you are at all?
I'll defer to our American listeners, but my understanding is that it's very easy to get hold of guns in certain places.
Yeah, I know it's easy, but easy in the sense that,
there's not a wait period, there's not anything tying to your ID. That's why people think things should be tightened up.
But surely, yeah, maybe it's right, I'm assuming it is right, but that would totally negate the whole traceability of a gun then. If you can just walk in with cash, surely that's what you buy in the black market, because every movie you've ever seen, you try and get an unregistered gun, etc. If you could just buy them, then there's no, why would you need why would you have all these scenarios?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe an American can let us know that, what the laws were in 1990. In fact, this is Chicago. So in Chicago in 1989, 1990, could you walk in with cash, no ID, not have to prove who you were, and buy a handgun? Let's tell us on Twitter and on the Columbo podcast forum.
Yeah. There's obviously a bit of a time gap here because she's now ready and at this music centre for an event.
Yes, but she's not dressed in her dark clothes at this point.
No, she's not. She's clearly putting in an appearance to set up her alibi, I would imagine.
Yeah. So there definitely is a time gap because, as we come to learn, she's had to go there earlier and secrete her change of clothes in the place.
Beneath the bathroom sinks.
Mm-hmm. This isn't a lot of time to do all this.
And it's a chancy plan.
Yeah. Why would she dress up first in the house and then take the makeup off and then she wouldn't have that much time?
Well, I think we learn later that she's been seduced by this alter ego. She's kind of falling
Lisa.
For this woman herself, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're at the concert hall. It's a potential fundraising event. She speaks briefly with a Dr. Walter Neff, who seems very taken with her.
Absolutely.
He asks where Kincaid is, and she tells him he had to work or do other things. And we go to the restrooms in this concert hall, and she retrieves her disguise, which, as I said, has been hidden under a basin, under a sink. She takes it, she gets into a cubicle.
Yep.
She changes her outfit and her look. Massively chancy, isn't it?
Anyone could walk in.
It's a ridiculous plan. This, we see the guests. There are hundreds of people there. Now, if there are hundreds of people, you can never ever assume that the restrooms at any point will be empty. And she's got to go in there, get the dress in the first place, and then return it later on.
Yep.
I think that's incredible to think that, if you're in a pub with 10 people in it...
Oh, she also got to hide away her own clothes.
Yeah.
That she's taking off.
Yes. So there's about 3 times where she's got to... Yeah, because when she gets back in as Lisa...
Yep, her own clothes are there.
She has to get into the... Yeah, has to get her clothes...
Change back. Hide Lisa's clothes.
Uh-huh.
Including the hat, which I don't think would fit in that package.
No, we see it earlier, you can fold it down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a felt fedora or something. But it's a nonsense. But
definitely chancy.
Very. But that's what she does. As she leaves, she bumps into Walter and one of the other committee members who she had spoken with.
Yeah, Helen, maybe?
Yeah, I can't remember her name. Didn't take it down. And both fail to recognise her. They note her, but don't know who she is. So at least she's passed that test.
Surprisingly, yes.
Very surprisingly. I think if you know someone and all they've done is put on a different hat and some makeup, and you really know this person quite well, especially the doctor, he works with her.
Close colleague, yeah. Maybe he's not paying attention.
From there we go to buckets.
We do. Lisa is there.
Yes.
She's setting herself up with the barman.
She is. She takes a seat and is almost immediately taken to be a hooker.
As you would be.
people in this bar. I mean, is this a brothel?
If you walk into a bar as a woman,
Alone,
people are going to assume things.
must think.
It's natural.
Yeah. And immediately some guy comes up to her.
By natural, I mean absurd.
Of course. You can't walk into a... You can't walk in... Because there's two things here. One, you might say this. Okay. You could potentially argue, she was obviously dressed like a hooker, right? But that was the same clothes that she's wearing and were entirely acceptable for the concert. So it can't be so hooker
As she was leaving the concert, they didn't.
Folk didn't go, why is she dressed like that? It was a little bit daring, the dress, but fairly sophisticated, I would have thought, for the time.
Yeah.
So the clothing would not immediately suggest this person is a prostitute. It's not Pretty Woman stuff.
No.
With the thigh-high boots and all that. So she sits down and some other guy immediately tries to pick her up.
She's not interested in him.
And the resident prostitute grumbles a little bit to the barman.
All bars have one.
Of course. The barman decides to try and find out what the situation is. So he goes over with a drink on the house and offers her a light with Bucket's own branded matches.
Yep.
She tips him quite well and makes it clear that he's to be paid to either point potential business in her direction, or at the very least, not give her any trouble while she's working.
Yeah.
Who arrives next?
Well, David shows up.
He does. He does a double take.
I'm not sure he recognises her at all.
No, but he smells. He's thinking, oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Even though he knows he's there to meet his, he still thinks, there's a chance of something else.
Yeah, but she gives him a wee wave and he picks up that it's her.
Yes.
But he's not buying this roleplay.
No, I think he feels a little bit stupid.
He has to be spoon-fed his lines.
Yeah.
And
now you take out money and in full public view, hand it to me.
And call me Lisa.
Call me Lisa, the hooker.
It reminds me of the character. Have you ever seen Avenue Q?
No.
It's a
Muppets.
It's kind of a puppet / human musical.
Mm-hmm.
There's a character in it called Lucy the Slut.
Okay.
And she behaves in a sort of vaguely similar way.
Okay, I'll look out for that. Eventually, he plays along, gives her the cash, and they leave.
They do.
They go back to the clinic.
They do.
And Ozzy seems quite unhappy with Kincaid blatantly signing in a prostitute.
Yeah, he's apparently not noticed that they used her keys to get in. Which will be important later.
Very important. So they go upstairs and
the music starts.
Yeah, it's quite drawn out, this, isn't it? I felt a bit nauseous watching it, to be honest. Her trying to be all sexy and him apparently
jarring.
Yes, he's thinking, this is the best ever. During the seduction scene in the clinic, she produces a gun and kills him.
Yeah, well, she makes sure he understands why she's doing it first.
Then she does the Columbo trope of the fake ransack.
I've written that down. I suppose it makes more sense if you imagine that the stuff was knocked over during sex than during a burglary.
Yes.
Marginally.
She lights a cigarette with the matches from Buckets, and she leaves them lying around and the cigarette to burn.
Well, she doesn't leave the cigarette to burn, does she?
Can't remember.
Well, there's not enough ash in the ashtray.
We'll get to that, but I've got a very obvious explanation for that. I've seen many smokers. There's a burning fire there. If she's walking around, she might flick the...
Well, she must have done something.
Yeah.
I didn't even pick up on what she actually did.
Can't remember. But an explanation would have been, she used the fire. Anyhow. She leaves, but she's got a vial of blood, which she spills on the carpet.
It's crazy.
Two things about this. One, where did she acquire the blood from? It's not that easy to get. Someone else's.
It's not mentioned.
No, which is a massive
Maybe
oversight.
you can buy them in Chicago.
Yeah, no ID. Can I have a revolver, please, and a vial of blood? Thank you. But secondly, due to part of the gotcha, it's obvious that some sort of DNA is in place here and at this time.
Yeah. It's around about this time that DNA became available.
So she must have known that she can't just drop someone's blood, because that will be the first thing they'll look at and identify that it's not...
If DNA is still new, she might not be aware of it or understand it.
Yes, but I don't think that is the case, and I'll tell you why. If it was that new that she could potentially or realistically not be aware of it, they would have assumed that the audience weren't either, and Columbo would have done some exposition about, there's this new technique which means that we can... He casually said it as if we all knew that.
Yeah, that's true.
So...
Who knows?
Lazy.
Well, or just stupid on her part.
Yeah. So we head back to the concert hall.
Yep, she walks in and immediately picks up a pervert.
Yes. We'll discuss this little creep a few times in the episode, but yeah, she does. You're correct. She's so... Apparently... Now, I don't want to mean here. She's not a bad-looking woman in my opinion. She's okay.
Sure.
But it's as if, she's... Yeah, the most desirable woman on the planet because she wears this black hat.
To be fair, it might just be this guy is such a sad sack.
It could be.
The first glimpse of someone not attached. He just attaches himself.
Yeah, so he follows her to the restrooms, the ladies.
Not only that, she's told him to leave her alone before that. She's fobbed him off.
And he thinks what he'll do is he'll hang about outside there, and I don't know what his game plan is.
Presumably when she emerges, he's going to seduce her.
Yeah.
With his manly charms.
Mm-hmm. So what happens obviously is that she goes in and changes and comes out as Joan. So Lisa never exits.
Correct.
So he's standing there. We find out later. All night. All night.
It's true. He tells her that after everybody left.
Yes. What's he doing? Why? This is not just a pervert. This is a lunatic.
A dangerous pervert.
A dangerous pervert. But the thing that every time I watch this, I don't mean to be crude, but this is the only episode I think where we'll be a little bit more because the episode itself is. So I think I feel entitled to lift up a notch. But here's the thing, right? So she gets into the toilet and he's waiting for her to come out. There must have been a point after say 8 minutes where his view must have been, well, she must be taking a dump. It's like she's not just in there powdering her nose. It's been 8 minutes. Woo! Maybe she'd a dodgy curry.
Maybe that's one of his fantasies. That's why he's hanging around.
Right, that is over that's stepping the mat. We're not going down that route. Okay. But yeah, that must have been that thought must have crossed his mind for a while.
The guy is a sicko. It's quite apparent.
He is a utter oddball.
There's a quote actually from Joan on her way out. I think it's Helen again. She speaks to.
Yeah.
And they,
Are you making this name up? Is it definitely Helen?
It might not be. I'm just going to call her Helen.
Yeah.
Somebody in the episode's called Helen.
Yeah.
And it can only possibly be her, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
And they talk about how the evening's gone, and Joan says, "I think everything came off perfectly."
Yes.
Wrong.
Very much so. We're back at the clinic the next morning, and Allenby arrives, and she's apparently in shock. She just heard about the death.
Yeah.
And she gets into the elevator, and as the doors stop, what happens?
Well, Columbo sticks his arm in and barges his way into the lift with her, and stands there next to her smoking.
Yep, there's a no smoking sign, and even back in the day when you could smoke in public places, it would have been rude, I think, in an enclosed space to get him with a cigar.
He doesn't seem to care initially, but then he kind of gets the picture and puts it out in his coffee.
Yeah. Then he notices. Now, did he notice just because there was a label hanging from her coat, or was he checking her out and then saw the label?
I mean, I suspect he knew who she was.
Okay, but still.
She's well known, and
but the question,
it's her clinic.
But the question remains, was he having a cheeky little glance at her and noticed the label, or did the label catch his eye and that's why he was looking?
I think he's being a detective. I think he's being aware of everything around him.
Really?
Yes.
And the detective requires looking at the legs of a...
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously, in this case, he spots the label.
I suggest that he was being a little bit creepy himself and having a sly glance.
Yeah, maybe.
Although in saying that, that's not true. In all the years, he's met with more beautiful women and he's never been seen to be...
Maybe that one time with the yoga.
Yeah, definitely that one time where he just liked to watch.
Yeah. And also when he went to the belly dancing class.
Yeah, and also that time he
but
told...
apart from those two times...
and the time he told the 14-year-old girl that she had a great body.
Well, that one was debatable.
Yeah.
Might just have been a confidence booster for her.
Yeah, you don't want to boost the confidence of kids.
Anyway, moving on to this episode.
Yes, moving back to this episode.
Something happens and she fakes a faint.
Does she fake a faint?
It looked to me like she did.
Yeah.
Well, why would she faint?
just because she actually committed the murder, this is a time of great stress. She may well feel sick and want to faint. She's nervous as
I
anything.
suppose it could be a real faint for nefarious reasons, that she's just
Possibly,
nervous that she's going to get caught.
Yeah.
That's possible. She's then introduced to Columbo.
Yes, by Cindy. And Allenby insists on seeing and being told exactly what happened. And he tells her that they know it was a woman who committed this murder due to Ozzy's information.
Yeah. There's a brilliant moment when one of our colleagues, I think Dr. Webb? Ward, Simon is what I've written down.
Yeah.
He stops by to comfort her and offer his sympathy and ask if she's read the paper he gave her the day before.
It's like, yeah.
Oh no, it was the week before, maybe, before she went to Chicago.
He says, have you had a chance? I know this is bad timing, but...
That's worse than any of Columbo's bad timing actions.
Yeah, but there's one in this episode. We'll get on.
We'll get there.
So Columbo goes on to explain what it looks like has happened. Apparently, Kincaid was involved with this woman, and he was hurting her, doing things to her that she did not want to have done, so she shot him.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear Columbo's not entirely at ease with the scenario.
Correct.
He's a little bit hesitant with his use of language, and he's kind of talking around what's happened.
Well, I think he's nervous about the whole environment and what they do, and in fact, we've got a clip which sums up this uncertainty.
Sure.
You know, I was wondering, ma'am, what kind of room is this?
We're psychologists here, Lieutenant. Our patients come to us with sexual problems, sometimes alone, sometimes in couples. Sometimes a room like this can be conducive to solving their sexual problems. And we also use that part for lecture purposes.
You mean these people, they go to bed here?
That's what the whole room was designed for.
And the people there are watching them?
No, Lieutenant, I assure you they're quite alone.
But there's people out there. I mean, in the hall. There's people all around.
There are
here.
doors.
Yeah, but the people out there know. I mean, that the couple is in here. And the couple in here, I mean, they know that the people out there know.
Lieutenant, we're talking about
Everybody
therapy. Does that
knows.
disturb you?
Oh, no, ma'am, no. They're just asking questions, ma'am. Just part of the investigation. Those are his things, ma'am. What we call his effects.
I think Columbo's got a fair point. And if you've got performance issues, you would not... It's not the most conducive, relaxed environment when there's folk walking up and down outside knowing what you're doing.
It's hard to imagine what you'd be thinking in that scenario. He goes through more of the evidence with her.
Yes.
And the question that comes up is the keys.
Well, before that, they note the cigarette and the matches from buckets that have been found.
Yeah.
And also, we've got Sergeant Burke.
Is it the same Sergeant Burke?
No, it's a new Sergeant Burke.
This is going to be a comedy thing now.
Well, it's an in-joke, isn't it? This Sergeant Burke was played by Stuart J. Zully. He was born in 1955. This is his second of 3 Columbo episodes, but his only Sergeant Burke role. So he was in last week's episode as Sewell. Can't remember who he was.
Sewell, that rings a bell.
Yeah.
Oh, he was the policeman that brought Kardashian.
Yes. Well remembered. He has been in Law and Order, Hill Street Blues, Murder, She Wrote, Wolf, the Jack Nicholson movie, and recently Blue Bloods.
Is that the Tom Selleck one?
Yes. Not watched it.
No,
I think I'd like it. So Burke, he tells Columbo that they have found hairs and blood.
Yes.
Which are important.
Well,
later.
now in the days of DNA, it's much more important than back in the day.
Go on, you were talking about the keys.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier when we talked about her being the one that let them in. But Kincaid's keys are missing. So either the killer's taken them away or he didn't have any. But I had an issue with this.
Why?
Columbo immediately leaps to the possibility that the woman in black had her own keys. Why would he think that? There's no reason for him to think that.
Why not?
Why would you think that rather than she took his keys when she left? Why would it even be a consideration that a courtesan that he's picked up would have keys to the clinic?
Well, he's looking at the two options, isn't it? He said that one, that she is taking his keys, or that they are the only two obvious.
It just seems to be such an unlikely option from the evidence that they have.
Of course, he's doing a bit of Columbo jumping here.
Yeah.
Leaping.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Joan leaves at this point.
Well, she plays the "I'm in shock" card, so I can't continue anymore. Which a lot of Columbo killers don't, but should do,
Perhaps.
to get themselves out of talking too much.
So she leaves the therapy room and back to the sort of reception area where creepy Walter Neff,
Yes.
who was upset earlier in the episode, we didn't mention it, he was upset earlier that he had no chance with her because she's with David.
Yeah.
I suspect he would have no chance with her whether she was with David or not.
I suspect you're right.
He tries to comfort her in an exceedingly creepy way.
When you say comfort, you mean get into her pants.
Well, I don't know what he's trying... Well, I know what he's trying to do, but I don't know what he's thinking.
What's he trying to do?
He's trying to do what you just said. And it makes no sense because he seems to have a complete... Either he is a man of some extremely powerful reputation that isn't in this episode and doesn't seem to affect Joan, or he has a greatly oversized opinion of his own attractiveness.
Or a sexual predator who smells vulnerability.
No, because he was on about her before she even became vulnerable.
Yeah, but now he's trying to exploit.
Like he's making his move.
Yeah, either way, he's a creepy wee guy who...
In this episode, there's like a series of these sort of... I mean, I don't want to be offensive because you have to be very careful of the terms that you use, but kind of geeky, nerdy, but not in a cool way.
No, the more traditional, old-fashioned...
Like Brill cream side parting and milk bottle bottom glasses.
Yes.
Folk have... Not that there's anything wrong with looking a certain way, but these folks seem to have no self-awareness.
Yeah.
I think that's what... It's not so much anything about them physically or their personality so much as the fact that they don't have any awareness of themselves or anything around them.
Yes. Columbo comes to her rescue by interrupting and notices that the label which he had detected on hanging from her coat is now missing.
It's well spotted. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what that shot was. I've written down he notices her shoes.
Okay. He has a few questions.
Yeah, he's got some personal questions.
Yes, and he grins like a schoolboy, or like us during the beginning of this podcast.
I wasn't grinning, I was stony-faced.
You were not stony-faced. What are these questions that he has for her?
Well, he is again talking around the questions to a certain extent, but he's trying to discover what the nature of her, Joan's relationship with David was, and she claims they're monogamous in a very explicit way.
They enjoy sex together.
But
good,
not with
hard
other people.
sex. Something like that, she says.
It's something like that, but not with anybody else. And,
no.
She also points out that David was her business partner.
Yes.
On you go.
No, I'm just going to say that he gave her... See, this is more to do with the motive.
Yeah.
He gave her the confidence to be herself and also be the
freedom to say what she says on the radio and to develop this personality.
Yes. Because you do have to have the confidence to be able to... do what she does.
Sensing a vulnerability, she turns the tables.
Yes, and does a one more thing, which was... I like that.
Yeah.
What does she do?
She asks Columbo for his own sexual history because she wants to know how he's going to frame her responses.
Yeah, and he can't leave fast enough.
He looks embarrassed and awkward, but also amused.
I thought this was a nice sort of modern, at the time, reworking of a typical trope from a Columbo killer, where they try and make him feel uncomfortable. So in the past, you had somebody in a boat, making him feel seasick,
picking up in a plane,
that type of thing. And this is obviously more psychological, but it's the same principle.
Yeah,
they're trying to
disorient him off his game a wee bit,
yeah, and it sort of works because he looks to get out of there and leave the room, but he does quite clearly state that he'll be back.
Yeah, he points out that he's a married man, Mum, and then he leaves.
Yes, and we see her confidence diminish just a touch.
Well, obviously now things aren't quite going the way that she thought they might.
So we head back to the concert hall, and Columbo enters as a man teaches some school kids about the tuba.
Yes.
And Columbo finds himself coerced, to an extent, into playing the instrument.
Well, I think the idea is to show how hard it is. So this guy's going to come along and not be able to get a note out the tuba.
Mm-hmm. But what happens?
Well, I wasn't convinced he was actually playing it.
He wasn't, I don't think.
But Columbo produces what they call a Shuba Concerto.
Yeah.
And we get this random filler scene where the fountain dances while he plays this wonderful melody and the children are in raptures.
Yeah. And that in itself I thought was okay, but then they take it a step further.
They do a tuba march.
Tuba march, yeah. Which is padding. There's a few scenes of padding.
It didn't add anything to the story.
No. And I think in this episode where you've got the whole grinning and laughing at they got the comedy through the sex talk and Columbo being uncomfortable. So this wasn't warranted. There's other episodes where the subject matter is less conducive to comedy that they could have, if they wanted to, pad out. This did not need it.
No. As Columbo is doing this, though, Joan Allenby is also in the building.
Yes. She is going up to retrieve her Lisa's clothes from the night before.
Yeah, they're still sellotaped or duct taped to the bottom of the sink.
And it's a bit odd because she goes up and she panics at first and can't find it. You would remember exactly.
Or you just look
Exactly.
underneath the sink.
Yeah, she goes to the wrong sink and works her way down.
She gets to it.
She does. She gets it and she leaves with it in a briefcase.
And that's the first I realised this is the same place where the event had happened.
Was it?
When she got her outfit, yeah. Or when she started to look for the outfit.
Okay. And she bumps into Columbo, doesn't
What
she?
a surprise.
Yeah. Again, there's a trope here.
Yep, he comes in wanting to know what her handbag costs, what her briefcase costs, and he wants to touch the briefcase.
Is it a birthday and anniversary, but he wants to know where he can get a
identical one for half the price.
Yes. She doesn't know.
Again, this is a blatant use of a trope. It's not natural.
Yeah.
It's part of what they would be saying to one another.
Mm. He asks about Kincaid. Why was he not at the event last night? And she simply says it wasn't his thing.
Yeah.
The committee member, Helen, who you call her, if that's her
I think
name.
we're going to call her Helen. Let's go with Helen.
Let's go with Helen. She arrives on the scene with a tuba wrapped around her.
Yeah, she congratulates Columbo on his performance, commiserates with Joan, and then collects a list from Joan, which is in the briefcase, so she's now going to expose the outfit.
No, there's 2 compartments.
Well, yes, but to be safe, she gets Columbo to hold the briefcase pointed away from him.
Yeah. And then conveniently, Helen overhears Columbo mention the woman in black.
Yes, and states that she was at the event
last night. At this point, effectively, this is over for her.
Yeah.
Up until this point, Columbo... Yeah, but at this point, Columbo knows what's going on, I think. Or he's very close to...
Yeah, he's going to close the trap very quickly.
Allenby claims not to have noticed her, and she's taken aback. This went according to plan, this trip. Where do we go now?
Went to a bartending school, which appears to be in a numbered room, so maybe a hotel room.
A suite, yeah, a function room in a hotel, but they've got the bar set up.
Yeah.
So,
who knows? Anyway, a cocktail class in progress.
Yep, it's the manager from Buckets.
Yeah, the guy who was behind the bar when Lisa was in.
Yeah, and he is spending an awful lot of time instructing the class on how to shake a drinks shaker. Doesn't seem that hard.
No. And then he's got them away reading textbooks about it.
Yeah. Columbo enters and is initially...
hilariously...
another trope here, mistaken for a student. But eventually the barman IDs Kincaid, confirms that he was in Buckets last night, and then goes into a lot of detail about exactly what occurred.
He was saying he hadn't paid much attention, didn't really know, and then he goes into this most extreme detail, and Columbo appreciates that he's very observant for someone who wasn't paying attention.
Must admit, I quite liked that little performance.
He uses the phrase that Lisa knew the playbook.
Yes.
You know, the book that prostitutes get when they start.
So we head to Allenby's house, and
Well, Columbo gets a drink first.
Yes, it's a Shirley Temple.
What's a Shirley Temple?
No idea. I've never had a Shirley Temple.
Maybe someone can fill us in. He says anyway, Columbo says he finds it very refreshing.
Yes. So we head to Allenby's house, and she ponders the briefcase to a very prominent sleazy sax score.
Again.
Uh-huh. She's about to throw the contents onto the fire when the doorbell goes, and
that's convenient.
Very convenient. Very lucky for Columbo and unlucky for her.
Well, lucky for her, because if it had been 30 seconds later, the stuff would be sitting there in full view, burning.
burning fedora.
What fedora?
What are you talking about?
That's a log.
Yeah. Columbo goes straight to the fireplace.
Yes. He has interesting and stimulating news.
Yes, but first of all, he wants to know what a courtesan is.
Yes, his wife has read the book and is keen that he reads that chapter.
On a chapter on sexual fantasy.
Yeah.
I don't think Mrs. Columbo's into that at all.
No, I think he's lying.
Yeah. He spots the briefcase around the other side of the fire.
Yes, he rescues it from the fire.
Yes, he said it was too close. He keeps a hold of it during the conversation.
Yeah.
So she's obviously edgy about it.
Not even during the conversation, he tries to leave with it later on. Anyway, he's telling her that they now know the lady's name.
Yes, The name she was using is Lisa, and she was a courtesan, a prostitute.
working girl.
A working girl, yes.
You say courtesan, I think of Nicole Kidman in Moulin Rouge.
I've not watched that movie before.
I see, it's a similar type of thing,
Yeah.
but in a different setting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he wants to know whether it was possible that Joan might... Oh no, that
Kincaid and
Kincaid
Lisa.
might know Lisa because the barman suggested that she was specifically waiting for
Yeah,
David.
she knocked back the first offer
Yep.
and settled on him. He thinks that therefore, if they knew each other, she may have had a reason to kill him.
Yeah, from previously.
He has another problem. Why was Lisa at the music hall that night?
Makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It blows up the whole story.
Allenby suggests that perhaps she liked music, but my suggestion would be this. If you're dressed in such a way, if you're dressed in your work gear and with all the makeup, I think you have basically a mask if you're doing that job. Like Lisa is.
Yep.
If you're going for your own personal entertainment at a concert, you wear your own clothes.
Yeah.
You don't go dressed like a hooker.
No. She should have come up with something better. Maybe she was looking for David or something.
Yeah. Columbo leaves, but we have one more thing. They found the keys in Kincaid's car in valet parking, so they were never...
He never had them at the clinic, no.
So he still has this original problem.
Yep. Then he leaves again and comes back.
Another one more thing.
Can we listen to this one?
Of course.
Okay.
Just one more thing, ma'am. Just for my reports, just a detail. I hope you understand.
Yes, I understand. A detail for your report.
Yes, ma'am. The night we flew to Chicago, the security guard's logbook, it said you went back to the office that night.
My flight was fogged in, Lieutenant. I didn't actually get out until the morning. Oh, you want to know why I returned to the clinic?
Well, it's not me, ma'am, so much as my captain. He's a regular stickler.
Well, as long as I had the time, I wanted to pick up a scientific paper. It was something that a colleague asked me to look at.
So when you went back, that was just for a minute.
Just for the paper.
Well, the detail I wanted to ask you, the middle of the night, deserted streets, the security guard, he said that you came in one cab and you left in another. Why didn't you just ask the cab to wait?
I did, Lieutenant, but the cab didn't wait. So I took another cab.
Well, that's it then. That explains it. Good night, ma'am. The cab left without being paid?
I paid him, Lieutenant. That's how I got him to wait. But when I came out,
he was gone. Well, they're impatient, ma'am. Good night again.
That was a third one more thing there.
Mm-hmm.
Right at the end of that clip, he's left and come back in. We heard the door.
Yeah. He does finally leave, and just as she's about to throw the fedora onto the fire, she has an idea. And we see her revert back to Lisa and then do this weird schizophrenic thing in two mirrors.
It reminded me of Lord of the Rings when Gollum's trying to find his personality and he's fighting between Smeagol and Gollum.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that she looked like Gollum. That would not be for me to say.
No. She tells herself that she can handle Columbo in one mirror, but in the other she is claiming that they should have burned the clothes.
This is Lisa versus Joan.
Yes.
Essentially. She's going to keep the outfit for now.
Yeah. We go back to the concert hall very briefly, and Columbo asks Burke for the master list and tells him to speak to everyone who had contact with Lisa that evening.
Bit of a filler scene there.
Yeah.
They need to have that on screen.
Mm-hmm. Another very short scene. This is another filler as well. Allenby is leading a group session in the clinic.
Columbo barges in.
Yep. He initially retreats immediately and apologises, but then what?
He then asks if he can sit in and listen.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, you can't, Columbo. That is absolutely disgraceful. You want to sit in a sex therapy session just for what kicks? You're wearing a dirty old Mac.
Yeah.
Even if Allenby had said yes, all the other patients would have been quite rightly entitled to say, go away.
Yeah. So he does go away.
Yeah.
Goes to the therapy room.
He does.
And then he acts weird like he did last week.
Yeah, he jumps onto the bed, he smells, and he looks at himself in the mirror on the ceiling.
We assume he's been there for some time because the session finishes and Joan's there.
Yeah. He tells her that they found the gun. It had no prints on it, but it was purchased a few days before, or that day in Chicago. Could have been that day, because she flew in.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any difference.
No.
the gun dealer described Lisa and says that she was nervous and that the address, as we mentioned, did not exist.
Yeah, he does that old trope where he fumbles for things through his pockets, but they obviously had cut the budget down because he only had about 3 bits of paper in his pocket.
Columbo has some new problems. So it explains that Lisa, at this point now, has been described as bold, shy, confident and nervous. And also, the blood type that they got from the cigarette saliva is different to the spots of blood on the carpet, which indicates a third person.
This isn't DNA.
No?
Blood type is the old test that they had before DNA became prevalent, so it only tells you blood type. That's not an exact match.
Ah, well, there
so
we go.
It's a slightly that occurs, that rings a bell now.
Not only is that an issue, there was another piece of hair found.
Yeah.
And then we have to consider this. Those 2 long black hairs that we found on the victim. Very feminine, ma'am. The lab boys think maybe an Asian woman. And it turns out that the blood type from these 2 hairs, that's a whole new, different type of blood. Would that mean there were 3 women with Mr. Kincaid?
You mean a sex orgy, Lieutenant? I suppose with a man like David, everything I'm learning about him, yes, I suppose that's completely possible.
Right. But that brings us back again to that security guard. He said only 1 woman came up here.
Do you think they could have come from other offices in the same building?
No, ma'am, the security guard, he checked out everybody from the building.
I don't know what to think, Lieutenant. You've got my head spinning.
Well, but when you get right down to it, ma'am, only 1 woman came in and only 1 woman went out. And whatever all this means, we have to look for the lady in black. And when we find her, I promise you, you're going to be the first to know. Good day.
What other type of orgy have you had, Ian, other than a sex orgy?
Not had a sex orgy.
Yeah, but I'm
Who
saying
told you that?
other than a sex orgy.
It's just a rumour.
3 other people told me.
Was one of them Dr. Ward? My concern with this bit is the hairs could have come from a wig. Why could a prostitute not be wearing a wig?
It was a wig.
Yeah,
But-
so why does it have to be a different person? Why could it not be the same person wearing a wig?
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't have to be someone who's concealing their identity to be wearing a wig.
Yeah. That's just the evidence that they had. They've got hair from some other person.
Yeah.
Columbo then has 3 quick conversations.
Little encounters.
Yes.
And they happen in identical fashion.
With Ward, Neff and Cindy. Talk me through them.
Okay, Dr. Ward accosts Columbo and says he has something to confess. Sex is his whole life. And he knows that the therapy bed was used one night the week of the murder, probably by Cindy because one of her hair ribbons was in it.
Yeah.
And he's upset at this cheap crusade to turn sex into something popular.
Yeah, you don't want popular sex.
No, that's what Columbo says.
Yeah.
He'll never catch on.
Fortunately for me, my sex is always unpopular.
But the point he wants to make is he didn't like David, but he didn't kill him. And Columbo is happy to confirm that he does not think that Ward was the lady in black.
Yes, and then he offers Ward some wizened counsel.
Yeah, he's asked for advice, and he gives sort of vague, non-specific, ambiguous advice.
He says, do the right thing. Where do we go next?
He leaves that office and Dr. Neff accosts him at the next office. He was aware that Dr. Ward was infatuated with Cindy and noticed that Cindy had been having cocktails with David. But he himself was obsessed with Joan and jealous of David, but did not kill him, even though he was jealous of him. I noted here that these guys are neurotic.
Neurotic and erotic.
I'm not sure how erotic they are. He asks Columbo for advice as well about when he should tell Joan about his love for her. And Columbo says when the time is right, when she's ready.
He's enjoying at this point now being providing this counsel, and I think he sees himself a bit like a godfather.
Yeah, he's got that kind of feel to him, doesn't he? He's got that sort of confidence now.
Quickly before we move on to the next encounter, Dr. Walter Nuff was played by Ken Lerner. He was born in 1948. He has been in The Running Man, NYPD Blue, Chicago Hope, Buffy, LA Law, Maniac Cop, Sledgehammer, and Happy Days, amongst many other things. And he is the brother of actor Michael Lerner, who's been in numerous things as well.
There you go.
Okay.
Yep, well, Cindy is the next one to accost him, Cindy Galt. She's telling Columbo that David was coming on to her. Yeah, and she didn't resist. But anyway, she doesn't tell him that. She asks similarly for advice. Should she tell Joan?
Yes, Columbo advises that kindness is wiser than truth.
Yeah, well, he's telling her not to tell her on this occasion.
She seems very pleased with this and then gets very close and touchy with him.
She comes round to his side of the table and it's all a bit weird.
Mm-hmm. Burke arrives.
He's got good news.
They did it.
They've found one.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
So
Turns out to be a pervert.
It
Another one.
wouldn't be hard to find a pervert in this episode. They go to the concert hall.
They do. And the pervert who followed Lisa to the toilets is there.
I don't know if we should call him a pervert. Let's call him a sex offender.
Well, he's not been convicted. We can't do that. He'll sue.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a convicted sex offender. You can still be a sex offender without being convicted.
I'm going to stick with pervert.
Okay, let's do that.
This is where I've taken the note that this episode is weirdly full of unattractive men who lack self-awareness.
Yeah.
I mentioned it earlier. Columbo inspects the women's toilets, but there's a concert on.
Yes. I've actually got him down here as the toilet creep. Not Columbo, the pervert.
Yeah.
He explains what he saw. He's quite casually happy to admit to the cops that, I was
this
hanging
is it.
about.
He doesn't see anything wrong. He sees him. I think this is kind of a sexist worldview as well. I think he sees himself as the man, as entitled to do whatever he wants when he wants this lady's attention.
Mm-hmm. Columbo, as you say, inspects the toilets. He goes in and he discovers a piece of tape under the basin.
That's fortunate.
But as he leaves, he has to run a gauntlet of disgust from the waiting, impatient patron or female patrons.
Yeah, they're not happy with him.
No, and they shout things at him, don't they? Oh, pervert, creep. Oh. Or maybe they didn't. That's what the feeling he got.
They certainly gave him a lot of stares and disgruntlement.
Mm-hmm. We head back to the office in the clinic.
Columbo's looking for something. He's really anxious.
He runs about with his hands in the air, doesn't he, in this scene? It's quite annoying.
Put the Benny Hill music on.
Yeah. Although I'm not sure if Benny Hill was ever chased by a cleaner in this scene.
The Russian cleaner.
Yeah. So he's looking through the bin for something, and initially he is accosted by this Russian cleaner.
Yeah.
He's exasperated. He cannot make her understand.
Well, there's clearly a breakdown in communication here. She's shouting at him in Russian and he's shouting back in Italian.
Yeah. Eventually he finds what he's looking for.
Eventually he does, and she is charmed by his romantic Italian ways.
Yeah, she's quite smitten by him.
She calls him police boy. She finishes by singing in Russian, "Goodbye, police boy."
Okay. What did Columbo find?
The tag from the coat.
That's what it was. So we go back to Allenby's house.
Yeah, Columbo's shown up with the pervert.
Yeah, she's quite startled. He's invited this sex offender into her house.
Yes.
Columbo appears and says that he hopes she doesn't mind him inviting him in. But of course she would.
Why would she not?
Yeah. But he wants them to talk.
Yeah, well, the Vice team haven't been able to find anything substantial on Lisa.
No.
So Lentz, the pervert, is here to tell his creepy story.
He does. He tells his very seedy little toilet story about that's his. How
no shame at all.
He picks up women by hanging about the female restroom.
No. He uses the phrase, "When I see a beautiful woman, I have a duty to approach her."
Yes.
That's illegal.
Yeah. Columbo now has a duty to arrest this imminent. In fact, I'm not imminent. He already has offended. I would put my last dollar on it.
To be honest, the man sickens me.
He does. He's a repulsive creature.
Men in general are a bit sickening, but this guy in particular.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how intimidated you would feel coming out of a toilet and someone who you told to go away was standing there waiting
all
for you?
All night!
With no encouragement.
No. Pervert.
Shocking.
So, anyway.
His story was that Lisa went into the toilet and never came out, and he waited till everybody else left and got the attendant to check.
Oh, God, he's such a creep.
It's disgusting. And then...
He says, he's questioned, I think she questions him, where are you drinking? He says, no, just champagne.
Yeah, not a drop, just champagne.
Which is obviously alcohol-free, as we all know. You can't.
Clearly.
No one gets drunk in champagne.
And probably a bottle of whiskey out of a brown paper bag before he went in.
Yes.
Oh, I feel nauseous just thinking about this guy.
Yeah.
I think he might be the most repulsive creature that's been in any Columbo episode.
Yeah, and most of them are murderers as well.
He's worse than any of the murderers.
Without a doubt. So he leaves anyway, and then Columbo reiterates his missing person problem.
Yeah.
A good detective, even a medium detective, he can find somebody who was there and bring an answer. But somebody who wasn't there, how can I deal with that?
I can't imagine, Lieutenant.
There's Lisa. People tell stories. But there's no trace she ever existed. Maybe we got this wrong, the way we're looking at it. Looking at it all wrong. Well, I'm working, ma'am. I'm still out there.
I appreciate everything you're doing, Lieutenant.
You'll see me again, ma'am.
I'm sure I will.
We skip ahead to that evening.
Yes, and what do we have here? Another montage, which is very 80s in its, or 90s in itself.
Well, even Rocky had a montage.
What do you mean, even Rocky? Rocky is the montage king.
That's a line from Team America.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I've not seen... I feel a bit stupid now, Ian. I fell for that one. I've not seen Team America.
It's really worth watching.
Yeah, no, I've heard it's good. Yeah, okay. So we have a montage,
My
don't
second puppet reference of the
we? It
podcast.
is. Everyone likes a puppet.
They do. Both those shows that I mentioned have puppet sex in them.
Really?
I wonder if that's a coincidence. It's just in my subconscious or something. Anyway, Joan's out as Lisa.
Yes. She's moving from bar to bar.
And paying barmen to deliver messages to Columbo. I'm not sure what her strategy is here.
It's to reinforce this. I think the only thing can be that she's trying to reinforce the fact that Lisa does exist and it's someone else.
This is a stupid way to do it.
Yes, of course it is. It's nonsense. She is stupid.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, either stupid or desperate.
Yeah.
Or both.
Mm-hmm.
She then returns home and burns the outfit
She does.
as the phone rings.
It's Sergeant Burke with a message that Columbo wants to relay, apparently.
Yep.
He has found Lisa from her very own research files.
Yeah. Now, Columbo later denies that this was the message, but I suspect it was the correct message.
Certainly was. In a panic, Allenby goes to her clinic.
Through a thunderstorm.
Yeah, middle of the night. She's surprised to find that the doors are already open.
Yeah, I've noted here, Columbo will be here.
Of course. And she enters and is startled by...
Yeah, he sneaks up from behind her.
Yeah.
And he hasn't found Lisa in the files after all.
No. He takes her to the therapy bedroom. And
As you do.
Oh, obviously, that's where I always take my suspects. And he explains that he has an issue with the cigarette and the match that he found. Apparently there was not enough ash. I don't really know where this went.
It reminds me a bit of, was it Mind Over Mayhem with the same clue?
No, it was similar. The clue was that it was lit by... The match was burned all the way down, therefore it was a
cigar,
pipe.
not a cigarette,
Yeah,
or
or-
something. Yeah.
Anyway, it was to do with
the type of thing.
Yeah, so it's different from this. But apparently this is a problem. It doesn't make much sense. Like
It
I say,
doesn't.
she could have flicked this in the fireplace.
The reason I did have a problem with this was that I don't know what happened to the ash.
Mm-hmm.
So it must have been disposed of naturally.
Yeah. Again, I'm not a smoker myself, but perhaps she was smoking a cigarette and went through to check her makeup in the mirror and flicked it into the sink or the
Toilet or something,
toilet
yeah.
and then ran it away.
Who knows? Anyway, Columbo's new theory is that Lisa has staged this entire murder scene.
Yes. He reminds her again of the key issue and
Yep.
claims that it means that Lisa was someone from the clinic.
Yeah. The phone rings.
Columbo says it might be Lisa, who might well be coming tonight.
This is getting a bit weird.
It's getting very weird, isn't it?
It's a bizarre theory as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we'll get to it in a moment, but...
Allenby's confused.
Yeah, Burke's on the phone.
Yes. Who wants to speak with Columbo. And Columbo then tells her after the call that he thinks that Lisa is somewhere in the building.
No, they know that she's somewhere in the building.
Okay.
Obviously, she's in the room with Columbo.
Yes.
But anyway, Columbo shows her the tag from the coat.
Well, he asks her first of all if he's heard of a specific department store, and she says yes. And he says, well, I asked you this because...
Want to see if you'd lie.
Tell
She
her.
takes offence to that, quite rightly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to get worse for her momentarily.
Yes. He then produces a receipt for a cheque that she
Cashed herself.
Cashed herself for cash for $1,500.
Yeah. She takes offence to this, goes to leave, and Lisa is outside.
Yes.
Why?
Who knows? Well, we do know the reason is that she doesn't mention it to Columbo because she can't, apparently. Because she knows that's not Lisa.
Yeah.
So the very fact that she didn't say to Columbo, oh, there's Lisa out there, is in some way proof that she is Lisa.
Sure. I thought it was maybe just a psychological thing to show that anybody could be Lisa.
Yeah. And Lisa does a sort of Friday the 13th bad guy type thing of immediately disappearing. She looks around again and she's gone.
Yeah, which is also creepy.
Yeah.
And then they head back to the therapy room and Lisa's there as well.
Yes, but it's a mannequin.
Yeah, it turns out to be a mannequin with
Yeah.
the outfit on.
He asks her to return for one more thing. And he shows her this mannequin of Lisa.
Yeah, and he calls her out for not mentioning the one she saw in the foyer.
Yeah. He talks about the shop assistant where she bought the clothes. and how she has identified her.
He specifically says that she was identified from a photo in her book.
Yeah. He then produces Cindy's ribbon.
Yeah,
that
he
was found
knows
on the
what
bed.
happened with Cindy.
Yeah. So he's effectively telling her he knows what the motive was.
He runs through the whole scenario.
Yeah. And Allenby resigns herself and effectively breaks down and admits.
It fills in the blanks, almost.
That night, the two of them in bed together, I heard him laughing at me. I was his joke.
That must have been very hard, man.
There isn't a woman in the world, Lieutenant, who wouldn't have fantasized in my circumstances about doing what I did. Make him pay for the anguish and the humiliation and all the loneliness to come. But I went beyond the fantasy, and I wasn't even frightened. Do you want to hear, Lieutenant, what did frighten me?
If you'd like to tell me, man.
Becoming somebody else. Becoming Lisa. After all my research, all my books, I hadn't truly understood what it was to sink into a fantasy.
Well, now she knows.
She does. She doesn't like it.
Well, I don't know if she liked it too much. Was that not the thing? She was seduced by Lisa herself.
Possibly. Columbo seemed to not agree with her or not like her, but I think he understands why she did it.
Yeah, I mean, he says specifically to her he's enjoyed their talks, and he thinks he does understand.
Yeah. The fire scene at the end there reminded me of How to Dial a Murder.
Okay.
They sat in front of a fire, face to face, and discussed things.
Yeah, it's a similar setup.
And it ends with Columbo saying that he doesn't judge people.
No, and we've heard this before. Try and Catch Me, he gave the speech to the ladies, where he explained that sometimes he does find killers that he respects, and maybe not for what they've done, but for other parts of their personality.
Sure. So, your thoughts, Ian? I mean, it's been a fun discussion on it we've had, but what's your thoughts on, leaving aside the laughing and the joking?
It didn't seem like an episode of Columbo to me.
No.
It almost seemed like Columbo was cut into some sort of, like I was hinting at earlier, Red Shoe Diaries type of storyline, and it just so happened that he was the policeman that investigated it.
Yeah, you can almost hear the studios, can't you, perhaps this time saying, listen, we need this to be sexier, it's not the 70s anymore, let's sex this up a little bit, let's give the people what they want. And
I'm pretty sure that this isn't what the people wanted.
no, I don't think it is at all.
I could be wrong. I mean, we've called it wrong before.
Yeah, well, it's not that I didn't enjoy it, I just thought it was wrapped up. This could have been, the same plot would have been done entirely different in the 70s.
Yeah.
So you could have taken the same motive and the same killing, actually,
Yep.
and wrapped it in a
70-minute episode.
70-minute episode with better actors.
Yeah, better haircuts.
Yeah, too much frivolity. These three nerds.
Who weren't believable.
Nah, to be honest, Stephen Max, who played Kincaid, looked and could have been a good Columbo killer, I think. He's that, a handsome guy. He looked as if he could play the sort of authority, charming man. Smooth, yeah. I think he could have been quite a decent Columbo killer.
Yeah, maybe. But there's many who could.
So, did you hate it?
No, I didn't hate it. I would put it
Worst of the ones we've, the lesser of the ones we've seen so far.
The three of them have their own charms and their own downfalls. I find it hard to separate them because they're so hard to compare.
Yeah.
The things that are good about them are different, and things that are bad about them are different. So it's hard for me to say, therefore this one was better.
Sure.
None of them were top tier,
I agree.
but none of them were bottom tier, Commodore level.
Yeah. A little bit of production information, Ian, before we get to the episode review.
And the rest of the cast.
3rd of April 1989, 98 minutes in length, directed by...
You seen 98 minutes?
Well, that's what it says.
There's only 90 minutes in the DVD.
Was it?
Yep.
Okay, go with that. James Frawley, director.
Heard of him many
Yeah.
times recently.
5th of the 6th.
It's going to be a nightmare on the show notes.
Gerald L. Ludwig was the writer who you did not like.
I hope it's his only Columbo episode. Tell me it's his only Columbo episode.
This is his only Columbo episode, but he has 9 Emmy nominations and 2 wins.
For this?
7 episodes of Murder, She Wrote. He wrote for MacGyver, Police Story, 3 The Hard Way, Mission Impossible, I Spy. So, an awful lot of writing credits to his name.
Not Red Shoe Diaries.
Not right. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I didn't check actually. Maybe we need to go back and check on that. From the cast, who else can we mention? Dr. Simon Ward was played by Peter Jurasik. He was born in 1950. He has been in Babylon 5, Tron, Sliders, LA Law, and Hill Street Blues. So that's 3, I think, from this. 3 we've mentioned who've been in LA Law.
Yeah, well, I mentioned LA Law a couple of weeks ago, didn't I?
Yeah, it does have that 80s feel about it. So, will we crack on with the review?
Well, did we cover Joan Allenby?
No, we haven't. How can I forget Dr. Joan Allenby, sex specialist. She was played by Lindsay Krause, born in 1948. Oscar nominated in 1985 for Places in the Heart. She has been in Law & Order, Buffy, The Insider, Hill Street Blues, Slapshot, which is a very good movie, Ice Hockey with Paul Newman, and LA Law. She's the daughter of Russell Krause, who was a writer of The Sound of Music.
Okay.
One of the co-writers, and he won a Tony and a Pulitzer Prize.
Impressive.
Episode review.
Yeah.
Motive.
Revenge.
Plain and simple. Clues. An awful lot here, really. So I'll go through them and you can let me know if I miss any. In no particular order. The label on the coat, the missing keys, Lisa being at the concert hall, Lisa being a courtesan, the 2 taxis at the clinic, the ribbon from Cindy, the cigarette ash, the blood, the restroom disappearance, and no mention of the silhouette by Allenby at the end of the episode.
And the hairs that they found as well.
Hairs, yeah.
And the blood type not matching.
Yes, yeah, the cigarette and the blood.
Yeah, but that's why they're important.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Gotcha. Again, next week we've got the season review, so we won't spend too much time on this. But initial thoughts. Am I right in thinking that it's merely based on the shop assistant IDing Allenby as the person who bought similar clothes to Lisa?
Possibly. I think you can also put them both in the same place when the music event was going on, Lisa and Joan.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, all you've got here is Joan has been found guilty of buying some clothes. Now, no one has a picture of Lisa.
No.
So we just know it was a black dress and a fedora hat. You can't convict someone on that. You can't convict someone of buying the same clothes.
Well, how do they know what black dress it was?
We haven't seen it, yeah?
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought of that.
It's a black
But she's
dress.
confessed.
Yeah.
I think what they might be able to then do is match her blood type to the cigarette. Again, that's not too specific. It's not as good as DNA. But
Nope. Plus, and the cigarette, is she a smoker herself? Could that have been planted there? It's in her place of work.
maybe she didn't smoke it herself. Yeah.
Yeah, but she did. I'm saying that they found a cigarette, an ashtray in
And
her
she could have left
place
it
of
there
work.
earlier.
Yeah.
One to think on.
Yeah. We'll discuss it in a bit more detail, I think, next week when we do the season reviews.
Yeah.
Speaking of next week, we have Grand Deceptions.
Okay, that sounds a bit more traditional.
Any ideas? Magic show again?
Well, it's possible, or it could just be some kind of elaborate plot.
Like every Columbo episode is.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you say grand, though maybe there's a piano involved.
Could be. We'll find out next week.
We will. In the meantime, thank you again to the listeners for chipping in on ColumboPodcast.com, on Twitter, on Facebook as well. Please keep going with that. It's great. If you want to leave us reviews on iTunes, or just ratings even, it's very much appreciated. We read every single one of those. We think they're great. Keep chipping in, and we really do appreciate it.
We do. That's us for this week, Ian, then, I think.
Okay, well, we'll see you folks next week then.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
have been listening to the Columbo podcast from Heard Yet Media.